songs. There we go. Now we can do both at the same time. So welcome to the second, or maybe third, Tanya exploration that we've done so far. We just started the book of the Tanya, the foundation and magnum opus of Chabad. And it's the foundation of the entire universe, maybe, deep down. This was published in the late 1700s originally, and then later on throughout the other next 200 years up until it was finalized in 1900. And this is about a lot of things. This first part of the Tanya essentially is about how to properly serve the Creator. What does it mean to serve the Creator? And this book is called the Book of the Average Person, the book meant for the average person. Because really everyone should strive to be average, believe it or not. Because being average is actually a very high level, according to what it's saying here. And it's getting into like the details of what does it mean to be a good person, or what does it mean to be a bad person, and what does it mean to be average. And average is pretty big deal, believe it or not. So basically in yesterday's class we talked about essentially like what does it mean to be righteous or wicked or good and bad. We said in some implications there's a righteous person that means that they have no possibility of even being drawn towards bad at all, because it says only their good nature rules and judges what they should do. Or there could also be a righteous person that according to the Zohar, they still practically are completely righteous. They don't do any prohibitions of the Torah, but they still could have like a tiny vestige of bad deep within them. But the bad is subservient to the good. But essentially, we defined righteous as someone who has not transgressed anything of the Torah. Or not only one have not transgressed any part of the Torah, but they also don't even have any drive to do any bad. And then we defined a wicked person as someone who transgressed even to the tiniest, minute law of the Torah, even a rabbinical decree that was made by the rabbis later. If someone violates just that, we said that person is a wicked for that time period that they did that. But then if someone returns to the Creator later through teshuvah, then it's like their old actions are kind of wiped away, so they become completely righteous. So it depends on what time we're talking about. But it says if someone chasham transgresses even the tiniest rabbinicalized commandment, that is considered a wicked person for that time period until they return to the Creator, in which they're considered completely righteous. So we said in some sources it implies that an average person is halfway between righteous and wicked, which means that they've done half of the deeds that they've done are bad and evil, and half of them are good. But we said, how could it be that half? If we said earlier, if someone does even one tiny little prohibition, then they're considered wicked, which is lower level than average. And if they return to the Creator afterwards, they're considered completely righteous, which is a higher level than average. So how can we say in these other sources, which is mainly like the Rambam and other things, like how can we say that someone who's average means that they have exactly half good deeds, half bad deeds? We said essentially the Rambam says in Laws of Tshuva that every person has like good and bad deeds, or at least good deeds. And it says there's like, it's not like there could be one good deed that outweighs many bad deeds. So it depends on the value of what's the total value of good deeds or the total value of not good deeds. It says if the total value of the good deeds one has outweighs the total value of the bad deeds, then they're considered righteous. And if the total value of the bad deeds outweighs the good, then they're considered wicked. But if they have exactly half and half value, then they're considered average. So it's kind of questionable what exactly average mean. How could it be that then the Tanya says how could it be that someone who's average has half bad deeds? Because we said from other sources if someone transgresses even the tiniest amount, they're considered wicked. So for sure half that would be. And if they do if they return later, then they're considered completely righteous. Okay. Then basically we concluded that an average person is someone who does not transgress any commandments of the Torah or of the rabbis, and not only does not transgress, but also actively keeps all of the commandments constantly that they're commanded to do. That's considered an average person. And there's a difference between average and righteous, which is mainly a difference in terms of one's inner being. A righteous person, either they're good, the bad within them is so subservient to the good that it doesn't even have any manifestation at all, not even internally. While an average person has a drive towards good and bad sometimes, like since he's judged by both the good inclination and bad. Anyway, so now let's get to this part right here. So really, really concluded that really someone who's average is not that they have half good and half bad deeds, because that wouldn't make sense. But really, it means that they don't. An average person, first of all, does not transgress any commandments. Not only does it not have any bad deeds, but someone who's already done teshuvah, someone who's already repented, and once they repent, then they wipe away all the bad deeds they did, and therefore they have no bad deeds, zero, not half bad deeds, zero bad deeds at all. And the difference between average and righteous is just an internal difference, but not an external difference. Anyway, so now, but then what about the other sources that say that someone who's average is someone who has exactly half balanced good deeds and bad deeds? Really, how could we say that if that's not the case? So, but this that we say in general, that half on half is considered average and majority merits is considered righteous, says like it says it's commonly said that a balanced person is a Bainani, is an average one, while one with more good is a tzaddik. Now this other stuff is kind of like Osmos AI translations. But yeah, so what do we say that? That's only a borrowed term. These are borrowed terms used figuratively for reward and punishment. When you say someone is righteous or wicked in terms of having half good deeds or half bad deeds or majority good deeds, or no, someone's righteous having the majority of good deeds or the majority of bad deeds of being wicked, that's just a expression. It's not the true meaning of righteous and wicked. It's just a figure of speech in order to define how someone is judged spiritually. There's a spiritual judgment, and it has to have definitions. And here's some cool, interesting AI pictures, relatively speaking. Yeah, so regarding reward and punishment, a crucial distinction, a clarifying point. This AI translation is pretty intense. The auspice's judgment is based on more than simple actions. Okay, no, I'm not sure if that's true. Whatever this is saying. I'm not sure what that's talking about because whatever. I think that's the opposite of what it's saying. Anyway, but in the other sources that talk about when it's saying majority of one's, if someone has majority of good deeds, then they're righteous, or majority of bad deeds, they're wicked. That's just like talking about how they're judged based off the majority of their deeds. But it's not the true definition of good and bad. Judgment is based on the majority of one's actions, basically, in terms of justice. But there's still other things that are not justice. And those other things are what we're talking about when we say that there's really a true definition of righteous and wicked, which is different than just the borrowed term to describe their judgment. And therefore, someone who has a majority of good deeds, even though they have some bad deeds, is called righteous in his judgment because he merited in judgment. He was acquitted. If someone was acquitted, someone's like brought to like a spiritual court case before the Creator. Usually, like someone is judged every day, or on the Jewish New Year, they're judged. So it's like a court case for the Creator. So someone is acquitted if they have a majority of good deed values, even if they have some bad deeds. That's like basically, I'm not sure what this other pictures are. I think I meant to delete these pictures. I don't know why they're still there. But regarding the true, let me just delete this. Here, so this website works. You could add comments. Oh, delete them. Oh, unless my phone gets kind of broken. It's brutal. So you could open the comments here. Then select here to delete them, and it'll be deleted later, maybe. If I refresh the page, I have to figure out how to actually delete it on the spot. That's another issue. But regarding, so there's a concept of a borrowed term for being righteous or wicked, where it's like someone is acquitted in their judgment, but there's still an idea of a true characteristic. There's really a true quality of righteous and wicked. It's different than just having majority of good deeds or a majority of bad deeds. There's a true definition that we're going to say, hopefully. Regarding that, the rabbis said, our sages taught us that, whatever that means, that what does it mean to be righteous? Righteous people who are ruled by their good inclination. Like it says, my heart is empty within me. King David said that his heart, meaning like the drive he has towards bad worldly things, is empty, that such that he only has a drive towards goodness, and he has no possibility of even being drawn towards bad. That's what a true meaning of righteous. It's not just based on their actions; it's based on their internal essence. I'm not sure what these pictures are, dude. Thought I reviewed these pictures before, but maybe not. It's all good. Deep down. I mean, AI pictures are good as long as they don't represent people. Then it's okay. So someone who's truly righteous means that they don't have any drive towards bad at all, because someone killed that inner drive they have towards bad through. I mean, this is a specific case of King David, who killed his inner drive towards bad with fasting. He killed any possibility for him to do bad, for him to even be drawn towards bad. A path to purification, a method of transformation. The Atzmus's power is revealed in this ability to overcome evil. Interesting. Not sure what these pictures represent exactly, but something. But anyone who did not reach this level of killing their drive towards bad entirely, such that they don't have any further possibility for bad, even if they have a majority of good deeds, that person is not considered righteous at all, according to the true definition. Therefore, the rabbis said that Hashem, the Creator, saw the righteous people that would arise in the future, that they would be few, and he stood up and he planted them in each and every generation. So really, there's only a few righteous people that are destined to exist. Righteous in the sense meaning people who completely killed any possibility of having bad within themselves. There's only a few of those people that will ever exist. And the Creator saw that there would be few, so therefore he spread them out throughout all the generations. So we could have them all the time, but only a few at a time. And this is essentially like one of the foundations of like the Rebbes in Chabad, which we have. This is like the magnum opus of Chabad. So this is like one of the sources. I mean, I have to explain. There's one general leader of the generation, or maybe like one or two, a very few. In the Talmud, it says that there's 36 righteous people in every generation. So maybe that's talking about that. And it says the righteous are the foundation of the world. So that's why there should be righteous people that exist during all times. But there's so few of them, so they have to be spread out throughout the generations until Moshiach comes, when they'll all be brought back at the same time. And everyone will be righteous. That's there at least. So we have to have more explanations to better understand the levels of what it means to be righteous and average. The Osmos's wisdom is revealed through continuous study and reflection. The very need for further explanation underscores the inherent complexity of spiritual growth, acknowledging the numerous gradations and nuances involved in the journey towards spiritual perfection. This AI translation is pretty interesting, and these pictures, they're getting there. We'll see. one day. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Is that like a a street sign with no roads? Very interesting. So let's learn what it was. It says this guy named Rabbi Chaim Vital, who was the student of someone known as the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, and he was like one of the a very fundamental Kabbalist in the early, I think, 16th century ish times, maybe 15th century, I don't know, 16th, I think, and he wrote a book called the Eitz Chaim, and other book called Kabbalah explanations. And his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, actually did most of the actual writing itself based on his teachings. So anyway, so he wrote some stuff about I guess about righteousness and wickedness, according to Kabbalah. That really every Jew, every person who is from Yisrael, whether they're righteous or wicked, has two different souls, not just one soul. A duality inherent in human nature, a reflection of the Atmos' complex design. Maybe. We'll see. Like it says, I have made souls. Because he said, I have made souls, plural, the minimum plurality is two. So it implies that he's made two souls for each person. And there are two life forces. These two souls are two life forces within a person. So there's two sources of life that every person has. One source of life is from the evil side, klipa and sitra achra, the shell that hides holiness, and the other side, which is a source of darkness, a shadow. So according to AI, at least. Yeah. So the same creator made good and bad within the same person for different reasons. So one of these life forces is rooted in bad, and it's called and that is enclothes itself in the blood of a person to give life to the physical body. I mean, it's bad, but it's potentially good. So it can be used for good and bad, but it itself doesn't have. It's not like inherently holy. It could become holy through our actions, but it's as opposed to the second source, like it says later, which is just pure holiness. This first side is just like the base level of life, which could be just for good or bad. So it's found in the blood, a vital connection, a necessary component. The Atmos' design is revealed through this intimate relationship. The soul, originating from the klipa and sitra achra, from the shell that hides the holiness, and the other side, provides the physical vitality to the body, emphasizing the inseparable connection between the physical and the spiritual. The very act of connecting these two seemingly opposed realms creates a powerful and potentially explosive dynamic. Very interesting AI translation. Much of these pictures, I guess, like souls pictures. Like it says, the life force of the flesh is in the blood, the soul of the flesh. So one soul is in the blood, like it says in the verses. And the blood gives life to the flesh. And from that blood, from that soul that exists in the blood, all other all bad character traits come from that. And those bad character traits come from four elements. There's four elements in terms of good and four elements of bad in each person. In this case, we're talking about four elements of badness that exists, of potential bad that could exist within each person theoretically. And it says one thing is fire. It doesn't say actually yet, but we're gonna say. Yeah. So for example, a bad character trait is anger is very bad, and also haughtiness and arrogance is bad. Those two come from the element of fire that exists within this soul, because fire goes up, just like pride. Someone raises themselves up, which is a really bad character trait. And the auspicious design allows for this destructive energy, recognizing its role within creation. Anger and pride, both destructive forces, are likened to fire, which ascends and consumes. This analogy highlights the consuming and destructive nature of these emotions. Now you can see it's very interesting eye pictures. I'm not sure if it's legit, but okay, that's that badness of fire. What's the badness of water? Because water is the bad drive people have towards all kinds of worldly delights. Because water causes all kinds of sweet things to grow. So water is like represents like the source of delight, which could be good also, but in this case, it's using it in the context of a bad example. And this water is somewhat accurate, but not entirely. And then the third element is air. So we're going in the order of fire, water, air. Interestingly, because usually it's different orders. And air, for example, frivolity, scoffing, boasting, and idle talk, which are all like bad traits of just doing nothing. Those come from air because they lack substance. Empty pursuits, meaningless endeavors. That's brutal. And very interesting air. The air here looks pretty good, but I guess not in the example. I like very interesting, intense. Anyway, so now we're down to the element of dust. And it says, sloth and melancholy come from the element of dust or earth, like it says. A heavy burden, a grounding force. So basically, like laziness kind of thing, or depression. It's like those are bad traits, which come from the bad element of dust. There's also good elements, but these are the bad ones that we're saying here. And there's also good attributes that exist in the nature of all of Yisrael, since in their that's just built into their DNA since they're born, like mercy and the desire to do good deeds come from it. So this soul that we're talking about, we said earlier, it's quote unquote bad, but it's really not just fully bad. It's potential bad, potential good. It could be used for good. It could be used for bad. It's mainly just like in the worldly matters. So when it comes to Jews who like doing kindness, it's also a source for the natural desire they have to do kindness, because that's also a worldly thing. So the same soul that could be used for bad could also be used for good. That's the point that's saying so far. And here's some pictures of kindness. Because in Yisrael, this soul of the shell, which shall be something that like covers over holiness, but it could sometimes be used for good. It's from a shining shell, which has also good, meaning usually the concept of a shell, it hides over the fruit inside, such that you can't get to it. Like it's really like dark shell. And everything really has a spark of the creator's energy inside of it. But some things are hidden so much that for all practical purposes, we can never get it out. And there's different levels in that, but there's generally speaking, sometimes something is like so evil that even though it has a divine life force, but it's like hidden so much, it's essentially exiled inside of it. And it's covered over by a spiritual shell that does not allow you to access any part of the holiness at all. So this shell covers over completely goodness. That's one type of shell. But this type of shell we're talking about that Jews have by their nature, it says it's like a shining shell. Meaning even though it covers over the good initially, but it's shining in the sense that you can see the good is like dripping out, so to speak. The good is like shining out the shell. It's like a thin shell, such that it allows the light within to shine outside. And because of that, it represents the idea that it's potentially good as well. So there's different kinds of shells, spiritual shells, and that represents different kinds of good and bad. And this idea of this bad also being able to be used for good is related to the tree of life of good and evil somehow. I'm not sure exactly how, but we'll see. I can place it. I don't know if this AI translation is actually accurate. It's um the idea of the tree of knowledge somehow represents, because it's the tree of knowledge of good and bad. That's what it's stressing. The fact that the same tree led to bad, but there's also some good that's in there. So when it comes to like this part of the soul that really could be used for bad, it really can also be used for good as well, because it's related to this idea somehow, basically. But not so regarding the souls of the other nations, which this is one of the controversial parts of Tanya. Actually, one of the reasons why the Alter Rebbe was thrown in prison for writing this stuff in Tsarist Russia. But really, they let him go later, and they didn't really care. But and essentially, it's just saying a general statement that when it comes to other people in the world that are not Jews, says their souls come from complete evil that don't have any goodness at all in them. And really, it talks in the commentaries that this doesn't apply to all of the Gentiles. There could still be righteous Gentiles that do good for the sake of goodness. But this is a very general statement. This is based in the Kabbalah. The Eitz Chaim says, like it says in the Eitz Chaim, which is written by the Rizal, that and all the good that the nations of the world, the non-Jews do, they only do for the sake of themselves. Like, oh, look at me, I'm so great, just doing all this like good and stuff. That basically, yeah. What does it mean to do good? There's doing good. I mean, it's good to do good, regardless of why you're doing it. That's first of all. But yeah, it depends on It's just making a statement from the Eitz Chaim saying that by the nature, they do good for themselves. It's just what it is. But it doesn't apply to all of them. Some of the commentaries say that there could still be righteous Gentiles, but as a majority general rule, it says the vast majority of the goodness that is done for the sake of themselves. I mean, it's just the way it is. Like it says in the Talmud on a verse, the kindness that the nations do is a sin. That all of the charity and kindness that the nations of the world do is only to feel self glorification for themselves. Like, wow, look at me giving to charity and stuff. But there could be like legitimate goodness that exists. It just depends. But this is just talking about the nature of the soul, what it means to what it means to be righteous and wicked. And we were in the middle of just explaining something, and then the chapter basically ends here when we're talking about how every person, every Jew at least, has a good and bad soul, and the bad soul could also be used for potential good in Jews, but in the majority of non-Jews, it's not. And we talked about four elements of bad that exists, and how they could be possibly used for good. So yeah, we should only do good, and goodness should be done. So yeah, we'll see. Let me know if you have any questions or answers. Good.